Mr. Fusco? Mr. Hey, Mr. Fusco? 2 o'clock. Are you sure? Yeah, come on. Let's go.
Okay, it's 2 o'clock, and our next committee of the day is the Rules Committee. Those committee members are McKittrick, Fusco, Amobian, Connor, and Davis. We do not have Councilwoman Amobian or Councilwoman Davis today, but we do have a quorum whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Clerk Viviano. I'd like to call the Rules Committee to order. We have previous minutes to approve. If I can get a motion.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. All right, we had a piece introduced last week, resolution designating the city council users and social media supervisor and authorizing the same to establish, administer, and moderate a social media accounts on behalf of City Council, authorizing the President of Council to approve all content posted on behalf of City Council to official City Council social media platforms, and declaring an emergency. We have our Chief of Staff, Dr. Williams, and we also have President of Council.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. We are excited as we are moving closer to the official launch of our social media presence. I've hoped that all of council have had an opportunity to review what's before you. I've asked Dr. Williams to be online just in case there were any additional questions as it relates to the social media policy. And Dr. Williams, I don't know if you have anything else that you'd like to add. I just want to say that Dr. Williams has done an amazing job and has put in a lot of hard work to get us to where we are so far. And so just want to thank her for all the good work that she's done as it relates to the social media policy.
Thank you, Council President, and thank you, Mr. Chair. We are excited about our social media account getting launched. We hope to launch in the next few weeks, but this has been long in coming, and it represents another way that we're reaching out to engage our constituency and let them know what is going on in terms of the legislative affairs of council and the other activities around the city, and to encourage them to increase their level of engagement with what's going on in the city of Akron.
Thank you both for the information there. Do we have any questions from any committee members or any council members? Okay, Clerk Viviano, we have to suspend the rules on this. It's only the second reading, correct?
Yes, you would need to suspend the rules.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is there a motion from the committee for suspension of the rules?
So moved.
Sir, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right. Well, we'll get that out to council tonight. Thanks, everybody. We have nothing further to come before the Rules Committee. We will be adjourned.
Our next committee today is the Public Service Committee. Those committee members are Kamer, McKittrick, DeShazier, Bolden, and Lombardo. We do have all committee members present except for Councilman Kamer, so Councilman McKittrick will be chairing today. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, just one moment. Okay, thank you, Clerk Viviano. I'd like to call the Public Service Committee to order. We have previous minutes to approve. If I could get a motion.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we have several pieces to come before us today. The first piece is an ordinance authorizing the removal of designation as a through street for a section of Diagonal Road from its intersection with Roslyn Avenue and Cortland Avenue, and from 200 feet northeast of its intersection with Bisson Avenue and Mercer Avenue to its intersection with Copley Road, and declaring an emergency. Mr. Lettle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. As you stated in the legislation, after the analysis of our traffic engineer, this is not a through street. So what we would like to do, this section of about 2 miles of Diagonal Road currently is 25 miles an hour from Diagonal to from Diagonal up to Frederick, but from Frederick to Copley, it is 35 miles an hour. So following our emphasis on traffic calming and slowing traffic down, we'd like to make this entire corridor 25 miles an hour. As you know, Kraus CLC is in this segment where it's 35. And obviously, they have hours of the day where it goes down to 20. We have the new renovated Perkins Park with the pool. Ed Davis is right there also. So this legislation will conform with our City Code 73. We will do all the maintenance ourselves. We will just change the signs out from 35 to 25 in these sections.
Thanks for that information, Mr. Lettle. I can imagine, since there's a change there, that probably does cause some confusion for folks that motorists go through there with the different speed changes. Right. Are there any questions from any committee members or council members? Council President, you have your hand up?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Just a question for Mr. Lettle. So you said it starts at Frederick, right there where the freeway starts?
From Frederick.
On Diagonal, I'm sorry. Right there.
At Diagonal. It's on Diagonals where it's 25 and 35.
Okay, so right there at the Frederick and Diagonal?
Yeah, so from Frederick up, it's 25, but once you get towards Copley, it changes to 35.
Okay,
Yes.
well, thank you so much. I just wanted to speak in support of that. You know, I think every time we do the speed bumps, we always have them on Diagonal just because of speeding concerns. So thank you.
And with our ordinance, ma'am, that's a great question. We do not put speed tables in a 35-mile-an-hour street. So it's okay to put them in the 25 section. So what this legislation really is doing is designating, after the analysis of the traffic engineer, to ODOT, this is not a through street. So to change that designation, we need your approval by his analysis, the traffic engineer, that this is not a through street.
Thanks for that question and those answers. Councilman DeShazer.
So it'll be the same from Diagonal to Copley Road?
It's from Frederick. So Diagonal Road, that whole section from Frederick down by the expressway all the way to Copley, it's going to be 25 mile an hour
And then,
on Diagonal.
and then you mentioned Mercer to Copley Road.
Yeah, I think that currently is 35. I think that's, so it's with Bisson and Mercer Avenue to the intersections of Copley Road.
Okay.
Yes.
Thanks for that question. What would any other questions from any other council folks? Councilman Fusco?
Thanks. You mentioned that there was a study that was done by our traffic guy?
Yeah, we've gotten, like President Somerville said, we've got requests to add speed tables in some of these sections,
Yeah.
but anywhere where it's 35, we do not put speed tables on a 35-mile-an-hour street. So that made us look at this street like, why is this 35? Why is this 25? So we started doing that analysis, and it's like, this should not, we don't know when it happened, but this should not be 35 in these sections.
Okay.
Thanks, Councilman. Any other questions from any other council persons? Consent agenda okay
That's
for
fine.
this? I get a motion for consent?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second for consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. The next ordinance is authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids for the construction of restrooms at Elizabeth Park and declaring an emergency. Mr. Lettle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and obviously members of committee. This legislation will allow us to construct a new two-family restroom right there where the new splash pad is on Lods there at Elizabeth Park, that not only will service the new splash pad, but also we have tennis courts there, we have basketball courts for that whole community. So the recreation staff, maintenance staff will be responsible for, the cleaning and the stocking of these restrooms. We are going to install cameras and lights. The restroom will be right behind the sidewalk, so it'll be very visible to anyone down there recreating. It also will have automatic locks where we can time them to open up in the early morning and then shut off in the evening when the recreation activities have been finished. It is going to be, we are not adding heat. So with the splash pad being seasonal and a lot of the other activities seasonal, this will be winterized and it will not be open in the depths of winter. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thanks, Mr. Lettle. That's similar to Higher Park there as
Correct.
well. So, any questions from any committee members or any council members? What's your pleasure on this one, Mr. Lettle?
Consent's fine.
Motion for consent?
I'll make a motion for consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion and a second for consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. All right, number 6 is an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts with innovative roofing solutions without the formality of publicly advertising for bids for preventative maintenance for all flat roofs that are the responsibility of the Building Maintenance Department and declaring an emergency. Mr. Lettle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. In the last few years, we've paid a lot more attention, or we've been a little more proactive in replacing these roofs. But we want to get to a more of a preventative program than a reactive program. So as you know, we replaced the roof on this building, we replaced the roof on Greystone, we have done the roof on John S. Knight, which were responsible for the maintenance of the roof, and we've done several community centers, okay? So this contractor or company, Innovative Roofing System, is in the TIPS program, which is, through the state of Ohio, all state bidding prices. And what they're going to help us do is go out and not only look at the roofs yearly, but also do some preventative maintenance. Look at where the water could be getting in, maybe make minor repairs to extend the life of all these roofs. So this is where we want to get. It's kind of like the legislation we had a few weeks ago about being more reactive or proactive in some of our community center upgrades. So this is for our roofs in our city-owned buildings.
Thanks, Mr. Lettle. I know in the past, on a lot of our older fire stations, we've actually put truss roofs instead of the flat roofs. Any considerations on any of the buildings? Are they mostly not able to do that because it's a larger size?
Just a larger cost to them. Anything new, the new community centers, we're not, if the design, we want to get away from those flat roofs. With our freeze-thaw cycles, it's tough. So yes, we would. But when you get too big, you just, you can't do a John S. Knight with it. It would just be huge. So
Obviously not.
yeah.
All right, thanks very much. Any questions from any committee members or council members? What's your pleasure?
Consent's fine.
Motion for consent?
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for consent agenda. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. We have number 7 is an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids for the painting of fire hydrants in the city of Akron water service area and declaring an emergency. Mr. Lettle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. Obviously, we've been doing this for about 6 years now. This is our annual program where we will paint about 2,000 of the 12,000 hydrants we own. This is a multi-step process where, you know, they sandblast all the paint all the way down to the bare metal, then they do a primer, and then they do the top coat, and then they will paint the top of the hydrant to the different colors for the volume so the fire department knows if it's a white dome that has the highest volume, and if it has a red, it's probably the lowest volume. So if they have a choice to pick one versus the other, they're high visible paint so they can see them and when it's not light out, obviously at night. So it's been a very good program. We bid it again, and this will allow us to move forward painting, like I said, about 2,000 of those 12,000 hydrants.
Thank you, Mr. Lettle. Are there any questions from any committee members or any other council members? What's your pleasure on this, sir?
Consent's fine.
Motion for consent?
I'll make the motion for consent.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, we are at number 8, and number 8 is an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter in a contract or contracts with Fortis Blue Incorporated without the formality of publicly advertising for bids for professional engineering services for the treatment plant process optimization project and declaring an emergency. Mr. Lettle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. Yes, Fontis Blue was someone we partnered with in 2018. Dr. Miller from the University of Akron Research Foundation is where this all started. So what they have done in not only our water supply, but also in our WRF, they've helped us with our consent decree. But the biggest thing that they did right before COVID was optimize our chemical treatment at the water plant. Since 2018, we have saved well over $1.5 million in chemicals and still maintaining a high level of water quality in our water supply division. In wastewater, or WRF, they've really helped us tune in the real-time control where we're optimizing these basins, especially in storms, when we can dewater them and those basins can refill, sometimes in the same storm, if the plant, WRF, has enough capacity to treat that. So this has been a fantastic partnership because the Research Foundation works very closely with our own staff in training, and like I said, it's all about optimizing our chemicals.
Thank you, Mr. Lettle. Any questions from any committee members or other council members? What's your pleasure on this, sir?
Consent's fine.
Okay, can I get a motion for consent?
Motion for consent.
I have a motion and a second for consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We are now at number 9. And this is an ordinance that's authorizing the mayor as designee to file applications and enter into an agreement or agreements with the Water Supply Revolving Loan Amount, WSRLA, with the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency, OEPA, and with the Ohio Water Development Authority, OWDA, for a planning loan to support Water Supply Bureau initiatives and declaring an emergency. Mr. Lettle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is part of the funds that we used for the previous legislation when we look at risk and resiliency in the Water Bureau operations. We use these funds, low interest loans, to really, when we look at risk and resiliency plan, we were mandated by the EPA to submit plans, and then how do we keep moving forward, whether it's the filter building, upgrades to the filter building, or our pumping stations, or our water treatment. So that's what these funds are used. It's a continuous operation to maintain our water plant.
Thank you, Mr. Ludell. Do you have any questions from any committee members or other council members? What's your pleasure on this, sir?
Consent's fine, sir.
I get a motion for consent, please.
Motion for consent.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for consent. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. All right, we are at number 10, and number 10 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to apply for and, if awarded, to accept and expend the Ohio Department of Transportation, ODOT, pedestrian and bicycle special solicitation grant for construction of the second phase of Rubber City Heritage Trail, RCHT, and declaring an emergency. Mr. Ludell?
This legislation will allow us to apply, and if we are awarded, accept the ODOT, as you said, pedestrian and bicycle special solicitation grant. We're requesting $750,000 for this project. We have talked about this project previously. This is phase 2 of the Rubber City Heritage Trail. This trail will start where phase 1 left off by Fire Station number 2 at Arlington and Market. It will cross there, Arlington. It will go behind Dave's Market on the old rail bed, and then it will come out at Exchange and end there. And that's where the next phase will pick up, at Exchange and Fountain. So these funds will be used for this project, and we are asking for support or legislation. We need this to apply for these loans from ODOT.
Thank you, Mr. Ludell. What's the time period for this grant, and what would be?
I mean, we have some time. We could put it on consent since you're meeting next week.
Going forward, what this section, what would the
we're
anticipated completion?
looking at, design is done. We're looking at if the award, and then we did apply for other money that could start later this year.
Okay, very good. I know there's a lot of excitement. I know Councilwoman Connor and Councilman Fusco are really enthused about this, as well as many other folks as well. We have any questions or comments from any council folks, committee?
Have our names on.
Could we have our names added to this?
Sure.
Mine and Jeff's, please.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Can I get a motion for consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for consent. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. All right, we are at number 11. Number 11 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to apply for, and if awarded, to accept and expend grant funds through the Summit County Transportation Improvement District, awarded by the Ohio Department of Transportation, ODOT, Office of Jobs and Commerce, for the improvement of South Main Street, and declaring an emergency. Mr. Ludell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. This is what we're calling Main Street Phase 3. So it is from Cedar to Barges, that section that is just south of downtown. Obviously, Gojo is in that section. We have a lot more residential. Canal Place keeps adding. We have obviously GPD, one of our major employers downtown. They're in this section, as I said, and then we have some other retail down at the end. So what this legislation will allow us to do is apply, and if awarded, accept $500,000 from the Transportation Improvement District. This is funds that flows through the state to the county, and then the county would distribute them to us. We did get TID money for Main Street Phase 1 and Main Street Phase 2. We are probably about a year away. We will find out in July. We did apply for $2.7 million worth of OPWC, which we feel pretty comfortable. We scored very well, but we definitely couldn't start anything till we get these funds, especially OPWC. There is some private funds in there. When I say private, like utility work, like AT&T or our friends at First Energy. There's going to be a little bit of water main work, a little bit of sewer reconstruction, but this project isn't near the magnitude of the other Main Street projects where we plan. This will be where we are going to saw cut all the concrete out and then replace with asphalt, but we are going to plan on leaving the curb and what we call the gutter. So the curb and the roadway is all poured in one section. So you have that curb, and then we'll saw cut about 12 inches inside the roadway. We'll make a saw cut all the way down from, one end to the other. That'll all be excavated out, and then asphalt goes in. So no drive aprons, that type of thing. So it won't be less evasive than the other two projects, but obviously we need these funds to pull this project off.
Thank you, Mr. Lettle. I'm sure a lot of people will be thrilled with that area of Main Street to be taken care of.
It's rough.
I know Saturday during the parade, it was it was a little dicey down through there, and I know it has been for some time, so that'll be a great improvement through there. Any comments or questions from committee members? And any council members? What's your pleasure on this, sir?
Consent's fine.
All right, can I get a motion for consent?
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second for consent. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Moving on to number 12. We have an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to apply for and, if awarded to, accept and expend the Ohio Department of Transportation ODOT Pedestrian and Bicycle Special Solicitation Grant for construction of the Akron Peninsula Multi-Purpose Trail Project and declaring an emergency. Mr. Lettle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. This piece of legislation in number 13 are basically talking about the same project. This first piece of legislation will allow us to apply to ODOT for the pedestrian and bicycle special solicitation grant. We are requesting $1.5 million with this legislation. I'm going to turn this over to Daniel D'Angelo to talk more about the project, and then he'll talk about the Clean Ohio funds in the next piece of legislation.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Daniel D'Angelo. I'm a planner with the Planning Department. This Akron Peninsula Trail, I jumped a little bit and passed those out to you previously, but that map that I handed out shows the proposed trail on Akron Peninsula Road. That trail came out of the planning process for the Merriman Valley Schumacher area that we did 2 years ago in conjunction with the city of Cuyahoga Falls. And the folks that live in the valley said loud and clear, we want to be able to walk and bike in our neighborhood, and right now there are no sidewalks on Akron Peninsula Road at all. So all those folks that live on Akron Peninsula Road, they don't actually have a way to access the business district or the towpath trail safely. So the goal of this trail would be to allow them to do that on a 10-foot wide paved asphalt trail that'll go from the intersection of Akron Peninsula Road and West Portage Trail north up to the Riverwood Open Space Preserve. You can see that on your map there. We have some funds from the Riverwood TIF project from the construction of the housing development. We also have $183,000 committed by the city of Cuyahoga Falls to help build this trail, but the budget for the project is $1.9 million, so we are short on the funding, so that's why we're applying for these two separate grants. One is the special solicitation that ODOT put out in December requesting applications, and then the other project is, the other funding source would be Clean Ohio Trail Funds. That's an annual funding source that comes from the state of Ohio. And I think that's it. We think it's a really important project and could really be a game changer for the folks that live down there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. D'Angelo. I have a question as far as where this would be put in. Which side of the roadway would this be put into?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we're proposing to put it on the west side or the south side, the side that the towpath is actually on.
Okay.
We have to do further study to make sure that that's going to, be feasible, but we think that'll be the best location for sure.
I think,
And also the preserve and is also on that side of the street, so that's why we want to connect those two elements together. There will be crosswalks to allow users to get to the Pheasant Run development and the Sycamore development. So
very good. I know there's a tremendous amount of bicycle traffic through the valley constantly throughout the year. Even in cooler weather, you'll see a lot of folks on bicycles down through there. So that will be a great improvement, and not just for the pleasure aspect, but safety as well. So it's a great looking project. Mr. Bolden.
Yes, first I'd like to add my name on both of these pieces of legislation. Question I have about the funding, it's state funding, is that coming also through the Fed? Is this one of those things that we have a chance of not getting it because it's federal money to pass through into ODOT, or is it strictly ODOT money? Again, hypothetically, that's the big picture.
yeah, so I can definitely answer about the Clean Ohio funds. Those are actually from a bond issue that was passed by state of Ohio residents 10 or 15 years ago. So that's state money, not federal money. I'm not sure about the
I'll have to
ODOT.
find out about the ODOT
Yeah,
on
I
this,
just-
if it runs through the DOT or not.
I am going to get asked about that. I know that, because
find out.
everybody's been chomping at the bit to get this
We'll get
going
you an
down.
answer.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, Councilman. Councilman Lombardo.
Hi, thank you. So on Akron Peninsula Road, it's a one lane in each direction, right? So this trail is built, like you said, on the west side. And it's going to be like 10-foot wide,
Yes, sir. It's going to be 10 feet wide, and it's going to be separated from the roadway.
separated from the roadway. So what's the buffer between the trail and the roadway?
It's just going to be landscaping. I think basically just grass.
Just grass or something like that? Okay, so not exactly part of the roadway off of it, and there's a buffer of grass or something in between. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Councilman. Councilman Bolden, do you have something else?
You mentioned crosswalks. I'm assuming one at Portage Trail, probably there, or would they be, when you go down to the other, like we go down to Sycamore and Hampton Knolls, would there be a crosswalk somewhere there? And if so, would they be something similar we've got down by San Run where the flashing lights are across on, or not, where they're slow traffic down, or? Just
Right.
wondering, out of curiosity.
Yeah, to the councilman through the chair, is that what does it say? Yeah. So they will be continental crosswalks, so the kind like that the Beatles were walking on the album cover. And well, that's the best way to understand what they look like. There will not be flashing lights. There will be signage that says yield to pedestrians. The flashing lights are, more money.
I understand that.
And so we could, apply for funding to get that.
Down the road, okay.
Down the road. And they would be located, there's already a crosswalk at West Portage Trail, and then we would add one at Sycamore and add one at Hampton Knoll.
Okay, great, thank you. I'm just trying to get my arms around it when people ask. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bolden. Any other questions or comments from committee members or council members? What's your pleasure on this?
The first one, consent's fine.
Okay, can I get a motion for consent?
So moved.
Second.
You have a motion and a second for consent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and the final piece we have coming is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to apply for, and if awarded, to accept and expend the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, ODNR, Clean Ohio Trail Fund, COTF, grant for the Akron Peninsula Multi-Purpose Trail Project and declaring an emergency. I'm assuming this has to do with the previous.
Exactly. It's the same explanation on what we're doing, but this legislation will allow us to apply for the Clean Ohio Trail Fund.
Very good, thank you. Any questions in regard to that from the committee or council members?
That's 2.1 million for this one?
Total.
That's a
So
total.
this
the whole project.
legislation should apply for 500,000.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilman. Since the other one's consent agenda, I'm assuming this
Yes,
is good for
fine.
consent as well? Any other questions before we call for a motion?
What's the difference in the distance right here on this part, the second one?
The total length, is it just under a mile, isn't it? It's like .8, I think.
Yes. Is there a difference on the two?
Good. Thank you.
All right, thank you for the question. Any other questions before we call for a motion? Can I get a motion for consent?
Motion for consent?
Second?
We have a motion and a second for consent. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Gentlemen, appreciate your time, and thanks for the map, Mr. D'Angelo. And we have nothing further to come before public service. We will be adjourned.
Our final committee meeting today will be the Budget and Finance Committee, and it will begin at 3 o'clock. Those committee members are Lombardo, Amobian, Fusco, Boyes, and Bolden. Again, that's the Budget and Finance Committee, and it will begin at 3 o'clock. Thank you.